Today we're going to talk about the Simply Posh Cosmetics Cozy Cabin Collection. This is going to release on Monday, November 6, 2023 at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. The palette contains 18 eyeshadows with 12 mattes and 6 duochromes and retails for $45 USD. If you use my affiliate code SEEKINGSHIFTS, it will save 10%, bringing the palette to about $40.50 USD. Thank you so much if you do choose to use my code. I did receive this palette in PR, and I am an affiliate with the brands. Because of that, I do have a bias, but as always, I'm going to try to remain as fair and objective as possible. They're also releasing this blush and highlighter palette. Let me know if you want to see swatches. I know we'll see you here for eyeshadows, but I can definitely swatch it over on Instagram if you're interested. Let's talk about the eyeshadow palette. So I love the colors in here. They almost have this murky, almost tertiary aspect to them, but some of them have a pop of vibrant color. I don't really have an opinion on the matte formula yet since this is just a first impression, but I've created 5 looks now with the palette and I found them to be pretty enjoyable to work with. They feel almost silky. It's hard to describe, but when you blend them in, they almost look like the texture of your skin, like it melts into your skin. It's really flattering on the eyes, not powdery at all. They build up on themselves nicely and they blend it into each other easily, but I have not used these with any other eyeshadow formula, so I don't know how well they play with others. As far as the shimmers, this is apparently an upgraded formula, but since this is my first time trying the brand, I don't really have a frame of reference to compare this to. The tones of these shimmers are beautiful and I really loved how all of them applied on the eyes. So let's go into each one. I have some close-up swatches for you. First up, Festive has an orange base and green, teal, blue shifting sparkles. This is one of my absolute favorites in the palette because of the base. It can be kind of sheared out and then it has these high impact sparkles, so it's great for layering and you can pair it with either warm tone or cool tone matte. Now this one did get a bit of hard pan after I swatched it and applied on my eyes a few times using my finger. It's not the type of hard pan where you have to like take off the top layer in order to use the product. It's just kind of like a layer on top that's a little bit more condensed, I guess. Hopefully you know what I mean. So personally, I don't see that as an issue, but it's just something I wanted to make you aware of. Next up, we have Candy Cane. This has more of an opaque reddish orange base and it has orange to gold shifting sparkles. These sparkles are more finely milled, so it's not quite as dimensional as Festive, but I love how vibrant this is. This one also did get a bit of hard pan, but again, it still picks up really easily if you swirl your finger around or if you use a brush. I did go in like several times to swatch it, and then I did multiple looks back to back, so I don't know if me like going in so many times back to back with my finger played a role in that. Next up is Gingerbread. This has a brown base and a mauvey pink to orange to gold shift. This one is more smooth and a bit on the duller side, but I really like the color of it. I think this one will be really flattering on the eyes. It's just not as high impact as some of the other shades in here. Next we have Pine. This has a forest green base and gold to green sparkles. I really like this one because of how piecey and dimensional it is. I feel like for some reason it's more of an approachable green and it can be used with a lot of the different mattes in this palette, so I think this is a great addition to the palette. Next we have Lights. This has a taupe base and blue to purple shifting sparkles. This one I was excited about, but I was hoping it would be more sparkly. It has a beautiful finish and I do think it looks better on the eyes than it does in a swatch, to be honest with you. I was hoping it would be more like a wet look topper shade, and it's not really that type of eyeshadow. And then the last shimmer in here is called Angel. This one I think is another standout. It's one of the more sparkly high impact shades. It has this almost like cerulean base with a lot of pigment to it, and it has these purple, pink, gold shifting sparkles. I think is another genius addition to the palette because I think you can pair it with a lot of the mattes in here. It reminds me a lot of one of my new favorite shades from Clionadh, Stencil, but it's more opaque and more sparkly, so definitely a different vibe. So now that I've shown you all the shades in this palette, let's go ahead and get into the 4 looks I created. So for the first look, I started off with the shade Cozy with a fluffy blending brush and I put that all over my crease. Then with a smaller brush, I went in with the shade Chimney on my inner and outer corners to create a halo eye. Then, more towards the center of my eye, I went in with the shade Gingerbread with my finger and I just kind of like built it up to start to create that halo eye effect. Then on the very center of my halo eye, I went in with the shade Candy Cane with my finger, created a gradient with that, and I really like the effect it created. And I kind of just mirrored this on my lower lash line. Then I went in with a purple liner for my waterline and mascara, and here is the final look. I really like it's giving like cozy, warm toned vibes. For the second look, I started off with the shade Stalking with a large blending brush. I started in the crease and kind of just diffused it all over and down into my lower lash line. Then with a smaller blending brush, I went in the shade Snowfall on the outer half of my eyelid and built that up to an opaque layer and kind of just mirrored the same thing underneath my eye. Then with my finger, I went in with the shade Festive all over my lid, and I loved how this looked layered over both the orangey shade and the teal shade. And I think you can kind of see what I mean about how it's a very versatile shade and you can pair it with a lot of different mattes. And finally, with the same pencil brush, I cleaned it off and went into the shade Candy Cane on my inner corner and brought that up into the swoop of my eye to kind of tie into that warmer crease. I finished off the look with a teal multichrome liner in my waterline and mascara, and here is the finished look. For the third look, I started with a fluffy blending brush and applied hot chocolate all over my crease. Then I went in with a smaller blending brush and applied the shade Cabin all over the outer half of my lid. I applied a bit of Fear in a Pixie Epoxy as a glitter primer because I wanted to have more of an opaque, high impact application, and I took Pine all over my lid with my finger. Then I went into the shade Festive on the inner corner and I brought that again up into the swoop of my lid. I love how this tied together the crease in the outer corner shade because it has that warm base but the green sparkles, so I feel like it really brought a lot of cohesion to this look. I finished up the look with a green liner in my waterline and a mascara, and here is the finished look. Okay, and for the last look, I had to go in with some of these cool tone shades, so I started off with Wish List on the inner half of my crease and kind of just diffuse that all over that inner half. Then I went in with the shade Sleigh Bells and kind of created a gradient and brought that all over the outer half of my crease. Then I went in with a smaller blending brush and applied Wintry on my outer corner, and again I just kind of mirrored all of the mattes on my lower lash line. I went in with Fear in a Pixie Epoxy because my eyes are starting to get a little bit dry at this point. And then I went in with my finger and slathered the shade Angel all over my lid. Finally, I went in with a pencil brush and applied Lights all over the inner part of my lid and the inner corner of my lower lash line. And here's the final look. Let me know which one is your favorite. I know I kind of did the same type of makeup for 3 of these 4 looks, but that's just how I like to do my makeup, okay? Okay, so my thoughts / first impression about this palette. I gotta say, it's very refreshing to see a palette released at this more affordable price point. I think we've been seeing a lot of $60, $70, $80 palettes. While they're beautiful and I really treasure them, I totally understand that's not in people's budget, or maybe even if it is in your budget, you just don't want to allocate that much money to one palette. So I love seeing a palette that has this variety of mattes and you can have the experience of special shadows at that $40 to $45 price point. I love also that it has removable pans. If you watch my channel, you know that's like a huge selling point for me, and I think it adds so much more value to a palette, so I love that they were able to offer that at this lower price point. I also think the way it's laid out is very user-friendly. If you're not sure what to do, you can just go down each row and create a cohesive look, but also the shimmers are very thoughtful in that a lot of them can be paired with a lot of the different mattes in this palette, and the color story just makes a lot of sense. So let me know what you think of this palette. Do you plan to pick it up? Is it going on your wish list? That's going to be it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.